We are calling this meeting to order today, January 25, 2020, a Board of Directors special meeting. This is a continuation of our Thursday, January 9, 2020 meeting, continuing to review contracts. We're doing something a little bit different this morning, where we're also, for the contracts that we didn't complete, that weren't on the initial agenda, we have added them to today's agenda for special meeting. So we are also opening our meeting for January 25th for the special agenda, and there are other items on that agenda. There are 5 of them, and for that we are not going to reopen the meeting with all the formalities. We are opening both meetings concurrently, and so in order for us to be efficient and we don't have to go through everything twice this morning, and also something as well, we're going to have closed session at the end. We know it's a nice Saturday morning, and as far as the business that folks are here for, we want to put that at the front end. We haven't said, we don't have a hard time that we're going to end the meeting, but we hope to try to get out of here sometime before noon, okay? With that being said, we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice President Cal Crowther, can you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next up, we'd like to invite Assistant Minister Kelvin Moore from Loveland Church. Yes, come up to the dais. Thank you for praying over all of us this morning.
Good morning. Can you bow your heads? Lord, we just come before you, thanking you for this day, Lord God, that we're here and that we can see, hear, touch, smell, taste, and know your presence, Father God. Lord, we ask right now, Father God, that your presence enters this room and in the heart of each and every person here today, Father God, that you would give us a spirit of unity, Father God. We bind anything that's going to separate that and hinder the program that you have in place, Father God. Lead these leaders and guide them, Father God. Have them always turn their face to you.
They want to decide to apply for a $585 million loan, which with government financing would reduce the cost of the project by $300 million. And that's exactly what we were going back to Congress and advocating for. But one of the things that they told us is that we need to build a stronger coalition. So with that, I spoke with President Taylor and mentioned to him that there's a firm out there called Dakota Communications, run by a gentleman named Kerman Maddox, who is very well connected to water agencies. He has contracts with LADWP, Metropolitan Water District, West Basin Municipal Water District, just many water districts around, as well as being politically connected with the state legislature. He runs people's campaigns as well. He was finance director for the state of California for the Obama campaign. He's very well connected to the water industry. So in order to build a coalition, we invited him to contract with us and help us build a coalition that the federal government mentioned when we were back there visiting with congresspersons and also departments like Bureau of Reclamation, EPA, and so forth. So this contract is limited in scope and term. It's for Mr. Maddox and his firm to establish relationships between us and these other larger agencies who, whenever you want to do a project, you have them on board. Everybody seeks their endorsement. You have them on board. It helps move your project through. So he's already arranged 3 meetings with Metropolitan Water District. He's creating a pamphlet that is like this one was created for our visits back to Congress. He's creating one that is more focused on water agencies and he's almost done with that. So within a couple of months, we will have established the relationships that we want to establish with Metropolitan Water District of Orange County, with San Diego County Water Authority, and others who would be instrumental in helping us to get the funding we want for various projects. So that's what this contract is about.
Questions? Dr. Young?
So we've contracted with Dakota Communications in order to lobby for us to build a coalition.
To build a coalition so that we can go, the grants and the loans, if we want loans, whatever we're looking for to do the projects that we want to do, especially for groundwater recharge, we want that coalition to back us.
Has this board taken action to pursue that course?
This board passed the Water Reliability 2025 resolution, I think it was February or March of last year.
That included this project?
That included this project.
And included the lobbies that you have here?
No, because at that time, we didn't know until after we visited DC
So
that we needed to
how
do
much
that.
how much have we paid the lobbies?
About $8,000.
How much?
$8,000.
This is a bigger project than what we can discuss today, that the district has taken on. I don't know how it got so far along. I hear more outside the community about it than in here, and I again would like to place this on a regular agenda so that the board can have a full understanding.
No problem with placing that on the agenda.
Okay.
And just a point of clarification, when the board passed that resolution, it listed potential projects, but we've never actually voted on those individual projects, correct?
We voted on pursuing water recharge, water exchange projects.
No, I don't believe that's the way it was. We basically said we're going to start this initiative, which we supported, but we said we're going to come back on the individual projects. Now we're talking about how we're basically pursuing this project at a federal level when this board has never actually voted on that project by itself. Because I'll be perfectly honest, Mr. General Manager, I've tried to give you the benefit of the doubt on this one, and I even went and heard you give a presentation on behalf of our district to special districts, and I was not impressed, to be perfectly honest. And I'm not in favor of this project. I think it's a boondoggle of epic proportion. But again, the concept of we need to have a sustainable vision of the future, I support that. I just think this is the wrong path. And again, we've never actually talked about this project on its own in that context. Basically, you've just taken that resolution and basically ran with it all the way to Washington, D.C. without this board ever actually discussing, is this the way we want to get to that outcome? Again, when we passed that resolution, we were saying, oh no, all these things we're listing are just potential projects we might pursue. We never actually ever came back and said, yes, this is what we want to do. Because I'll be honest, this is a crazy idea.
It's a mischaracterization to say that I have been running with this on my own.
Well, but you're getting consultants to research it, you're getting communication companies to lobby for it. I don't know what you call that. I mean, it sure seems like the past administration and you basically just decided that you're going to run with it, even though the full board never actually had a separate discussion about this.
I've worked closely with the executive committee, and we've traveled together.
Exactly my point, not the full board. So I concur with President or Dr. Young that we need to have a separate discussion of this because the concept of pursuing sustainability and having water for the future, I think we all agreed on that, but we never ever actually discussed individual projects.
Mr. President?
With that.
Dr. Young, Mr. Young, I think, Kyle, did you have a question? He was over here. Did you have a question first, and then Dr. Taylor? Or Dr. Taylor first?
I didn't have a question.
Okay, well, a statement. Does
Statement
Dr.
is,
Taylor
I
say-
think this is better pursued maybe in a study session,
Yes.
and that way we can get into it in length. Also, I've been there with the presentations that our general managers give. Very impressive, very thorough, well thought out. This project here, if it ever gets completed, is a very good project. It's been done before. I've been well briefed on it as when I was president, and also Kyle Crowther as the vice president. There's a tremendous amount of support for it by highly elected officials in Washington, D.C., and then our local elected officials too support this project. Their names are listed on here, so I don't need to go into great detail. But I think this would be better presented in an in-depth study session. That way we can talk over just about everything that's involved with the project itself.
Are there any federal support on this?
That's why we went to Congress, and we being a part of it.
Feedback after you guys made the presentation to a couple of congressmen, the feedback I got, why in the hell are y'all on this boondoggle? I didn't even know anything about it.
Well, I will say this, from what I'm reading, I don't know a whole lot about the project in its entirety. However, from both Dr. Young, Mr. Young, Dr. Taylor, I think we all agree that we need more information in a format to discuss this. That's the whole point of why we're having these reviews, so we can bring out and be able to formulate a new way of addressing some of these projects. Now, in relation to the professional services contract, you said it's specific in the scope and its term. Can you speak to the scope and term?
Yeah, the scope is to help us develop a coalition so that we have the support we need. And it's not just we getting support, but us also supporting them in their efforts. So building this coalition, and once he's introduced us to people and the ball is rolling, then he steps out.
Okay, so is there a specific date? When is this contract?
The contract is actually, the way we do it, it's a year-long contract. That doesn't mean that the money's gonna last a year or that the scope of services takes a year. But the contract in turn is a year, but the actual activities are just a few months.
Does he get paid does this person get paid per, for services, or is it a monthly retainer? What
No,
is
it's not a retainer, it's
Okay.
based on services.
it? Okay, performance based, okay.
Can I ask a question specific to the task order? Is it possible to put the task order up on the screen? On page 587 of the packet? If not, that's fine, but if you can, I think it helped illustrate the point that I'm about to make. Thank you, Albert. Yeah, I have it on page 587. Okay, that might be a little different than my page. It's 587 in my packet. Oh, yeah. No. Should be Exhibit 1, Task Order 1, so might be a few more pages down.
It's gonna be 1.14A.
Yeah, you're almost there. All right, here we go. Yeah, if you can scroll that down a little, well,
That's Kroll Engineering.
oh, that's Crow. I guess our numbers are all
Okay.
off, but that's okay. I can talk about it, but thank you.
I'll concede, Greg, to what you're going to read is accurate.
Okay. Well, my question is more that if you look at that scope of work, everything you just described isn't in the scope of work. The scope of work talks about, media relations, media strategy, design of newsletters, invites, flyers, newspaper, printed materials. Nothing in there about building a coalition or trying to build bridges with federal partners or any of the stuff we've just been discussing. So I mean, I realize we're not taking action on it, but I mean, shouldn't the scope of work be what you said it should be?
It should be, and that is the intent, and I have to look at that.
Yeah.
But I do want to say this, two things, because I think this is a very important, there's two parts of this conversation that we've just had. One is relating to the project this consultant is working on, which I think we all agree, we will set a date, a future date when we will have a workshop specifically on this specific Pacific River project. However, I think the second issue, which is the issue you raised, is about our contracts in general. And for a number of our contracts, they have just boilerplate language, and the level of specificity that I have observed in the time that I've been on the board that we need in our contracts has not been there for the whole time. So yes, that is a part of why we're doing this review. Now, as far as any other questions about the project itself, I think we're already agreeing that we're gonna have a meeting about this. Regarding the code of communications, I think we did talk about the contract, its limitations of scope, the qualifications of the consultant, what work they're supposed to be doing, and then it also brought up a very good point in general. And I also, Greg, I see you were okay when you got your agenda this week.
Well, I got a little bit more time. I preferred a little more.
Okay, I just wanted to know. I wanted to make that point too, because the last session it was right. And see, you had time to prepare. You did have time to prepare today. I can see.
Well, but to be perfectly honest, all the stuff we've been speaking up to now was from the previous agenda. So I did actually have the week to prepare that we probably should be getting normally. I mean, thankfully, the stuff that we got just 36 hours before this meeting was stuff that I was aware of and could review in that time frame, but we'll still have that discussion elsewhere.
Okay.
But I will say that I will agree with you that our contracts, yes, they're boilerplate, and to an extent, I think that's okay, but I raised this concern prior to when you got on the board that we've been writing these task orders so broadly that you could drive a Mack truck through it, and it just allows them to basically do whatever, and I agree, it needs to be much more specific. This is what they're working on, these are the expectations, because honestly, when I read this, I was like, okay, why are we having them do newsletters and talking to the media? We have a whole department for that. And then we come here and we're talking about a whole nother aspect of what they're doing, which again isn't even covered here. So certainly when we bring this back, we need to have it a little more accurate.
That's more of an all-inclusive statement, but they only do what they're directed to do.
Well, but still, we need to be specific in these contracts. So thank you.
In general. Okay, all right, so moving on, item number 15, professional services agreement with Engineering Resources Southern California, Inc. for engineering services including Lord Ranch Valley Boulevard, Bloomington, Phase 3A, and Pressure Zone 7 PRV.
Well, go ahead, Mr. President and members of the board. Rosa Gutierrez, Senior Engineer, overseeing the Capital Project Department.
Just real quick, you said item 15?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this was added then?
No, it was on the last agenda.
Well, that's what I
Director
have.
Greg Young, we had problems with our agenda on this meeting.
I just want to clarify.
Yeah, but just to let you
know.
know, the posted agenda included item number 15. For some reason, when we generated this agenda, it dropped off in the packet.
Gotcha.
So it has been reposted as amended with all that information.
Okay, I'm just trying to follow along, so
yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Matt Burdine, I'm the President of Engineering Resources.
The items included with engineering resources are a few, so I'd like to take a little bit of time and just give you a little bit of background. The Valley Pomona project, it just included, the purpose of this project is to increase and improve the circulation, water quality, to improve the fire flow and improve for customer service. This project is 90% complete, the design of this project, and we anticipate to have this completed in March of 2020. The next group of projects is Lord Ranch. Lord Ranch consists of an aeration tank, a booster pump station 4-3, and site grading. This project is 60% complete, and we anticipate to have that done in March, maybe beginning of April, along with the design for all three. The next project is the construction inspection services for the Bloomington Phase 3A project, which we had described earlier. This project is 85% complete, and we anticipate to have this project completed March of 2020. And the last project I want to discuss is the pressure zone PRV, pressure zone 7 for Lytle Creek Road. This project will increase the development to project what is needed for the North Fontana area. This project has not started. It has been board approved. But when we do start, we anticipate to complete this project in 3 months. Any questions?
I don't have any questions? No questions at this time. Thank you, everyone. I want to call a brief bathroom break because that concludes the all of the items for our previous agenda. So we already had our closed session from our last meeting already. So we're going to adjourn the meeting from January 9th. We're adjourning that meeting and a quick bathroom break. Everybody take 5.
Everything okay? It is now.
Oh, okay.
This stopped 10 minutes into it, stopped and said error, so I had to restart it.
Okay.
But it just should have picked up right where it left off. There's no problem with this. This didn't start until about 15 minutes into it.
Okay.
And then I just waited and eventually it just showed up. The third time we did it, it started streaming.
So maybe like a Wi-Fi issue or something?
No, I think it's something with to do with this software that we chose, the
Yeah.
EFB software, the download, and the application.
Oh, okay.
And I had to restart 3 times and they finally connected to each other.
Okay.
And that was the only thing we did.
But we should be able to upplay it and it'll be fine, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. I'll just tell Channing we're just gonna come to the drop, so is it?
So the very free, you might miss the very first 10 minutes, 5 minutes of it. It's on
Still
YouTube.
live, right?
Yes, it's still live.
Oh, yours.
I swear, we never got into this thing. There's a setting on the phone that we're here to make it. There's a setting.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, but.
We're on the finance committee.
Yeah, so when.
Is Wednesday, 10 o'clock okay with you?
This next one, or is it? That is the 29th.
Next Wednesday, the 28th. Andy?
The 28th is Tuesday. So it'd have to be on Wednesday, because I gotta deal with tax.
Wednesday. I'm talking about Wednesday.
That's the 29th.
You won't be able to do this on Thursday.
What?
You gonna do it? Can't do the 29th.
I need at least 3 days.
Huh?
I need at least 3 days.
How about Thursday, the 30th? Yeah.
I was trying,
Oh, he's gonna get a conference next week.
you have a conference y'all next week?
That's right.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah. We could do it
Friday.
Friday.
Or the following week.
Yeah, the following week. You wanna shoot for the following week?
Well, that's pretty.
Which would be Tuesday the 4th. I would like, is Tuesday at 10 o'clock okay with everybody?
We usually have executive.
We can change it.
Is Tuesday at 10 o'clock okay with everybody?
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Now, let me say this, the meeting I have would prefer, maybe somebody involved in the finance committee. We were more consistent in the meeting times and things.
That's what we're trying to establish right
Okay,
now.
all right. Thank you.
So we'll do the first Tuesday in the month at 10 o'clock. Okay? Okay. And then we'll work on an agenda for that meeting.
Yep. How you all doing today? How you doing today? No, we're all a little sick right now. How you guys? So you all doing? Yeah. All right. Things going. I wanted to also, I'm not I really look forward to you all. That's something, trying to take the tidbits that I get from each like individual meetings and get more to try to incorporate it in what's. And it is very important to me as far as trying to, for everyone involved trying to figure out like how to just like better. Trying. Oh, no. That's a bargain.
You know, and we'll all be dead probably by that point, you know? If it's not, it's okay. All right. Okay. All right. All right. There you go. All right. The one you gave me the
Director now. Director.
All right. Okay. Everybody got some water and coffee? All right.
Okay. All right, everyone, we are now, after our brief bathroom break, we are reconvening our meeting, starting with the agenda that is for Saturday, January 25th. It is a special meeting for us to continue reviewing contracts. There are 5 items on here that were not on the original agenda. We have already adopted this agenda previously.
This one?
Yes,
Isn't this the new one?
we did at the beginning. We accepted them concurrently. Yes, and so for this particular agenda, we, or these items on the agenda, we already informed you all, we're not going to do the Pledge of Allegiance again, opening prayer, call to order, roll call of the board members, right? That's all proper, okay? And then public participation, we're not gonna have the secretary read it again. We also don't have any cards for public participation. Well, we didn't get any during the break, did we?
No, we did not.
No, we did not. So we can appropriately get right into the discussion of item number 1, which is the review of professional services agreement with Geoscience Support Services, Inc. for hydroelectrical services related to the Bunker Hill well sitting evaluation.
Thank you, President Hawkins, members of the board, Linda Jadeski, Engineering Services Manager. Just to make one little correction, hydrogeological.
Okay. Hydrogeological,
Yes.
yes.
The district requested proposals for professional hydrogeological services from expert groundwater consultants to provide professional services related to performing a well siting evaluation. The district is interested in drilling new production wells in the Bunker Hill Basin and to bolster our groundwater production in the event that we are reduced in state project water supplies. As a preliminary phase to do this work, we need a comprehensive well site evaluation that needs to be performed to ensure that the groundwater production meets the production capacity and the water quality that the district is looking for. On October 29th, we requested proposals, and we have selected Geoscience as the best consultant to perform the work for the district. This project has not yet begun. We're planning to have a kickoff meeting next week. And I am done with my report if you have any questions.
Do we have any questions? No questions? Okay. Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Jadowski. Next up is item number 2, agreement for professional services with Tom Dodson and Associates for environmental consulting services.
Thank you, President Hawkins, member of the board, Linda Jadowski, Engineering Services Manager. We have an agreement with Mr. Dodson for 2 different projects. One is for the Cactus Basin 2. Mr. Dodson was requested to do review the draft streambed alteration agreement that the district received from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and to provide a response on the district's behalf. And Mr. Dodson has performed this service for us and the contract is complete. The second item is well 36. As part of the evaluation for the emergency well rehabilitation project, staff did ask Mr. Dodson to come out to the site to take a look at the well to see what environmental documents that we would need to prepare in order to go ahead with the rehabilitation of the well. Subsequently, there was a meeting that was held at the district with Mr. Dodson and staff, and he provided different options on different, if we're going to rehabilitate the well, if we're going to drill a new well, what our options would be based on a CEQA standpoint. And we have not made a determination on how the district would like to proceed as yet. So we have not proceeded with Mr. Dodson's services. He's only used $450 of the contract.
Are those recommendations currently in committee? Oh, are those his recommendations, are they currently at committee? Or what do we need to do as a board, or where are we so we can take action one way or another?
Well, with all the other well rehabilitation projects that we've been working on, we have increased production capacity. So this is more of a long-term project, not one of our short-term projects. So we're still looking at it.
Oh, we're still looking at it because okay.
It's not ready for board approval yet.
Correct, it's not.
Okay. Any questions regarding the project? All right. Okay. Next up. Item number 3, review agreement with Clinical Laboratory of San Bernardino, Inc. for analytical lab services to public water supply.
Good morning, Presidents and members of the board. Joanne Chan, Operations Manager. This is to review agreement with Clinical Lab of San Bernardino for analytical lab services. District staff has identified a need to have a certified lab to perform analytical tests for the district. The district released an RFP and received 6 proposals. Back in 2015, Clinical Lab of San Bernardino's proposal was selected and awarded the contract. And so far this budget year, from July 2019 to December 2019, the district has spent about $50,000 on lab services. With that, I'm happy to address any questions.
Okay. In your opinion, are they doing a good job?
Excellent, and the pricing is awesome.
Okay. All right. So they're very competitive in their pricing
Very competitive.
too. All right. So the ratepayers are getting value and testing of their water. Any other questions?
Quick question. Do we have 2 firms that are doing the same work, Joanne? Do we have two firms that are doing the same work?
No, for clinical lab, that's our main contractor lab to handle routine lab testings. And the other one, that's the next agenda. That one is the specialized lab analysis. We do it once every 5 years. That's for unregulated contaminant monitoring. And clinical lab didn't bid on that job because they lacked the skill set or certain analytical method to complete the required test.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, no other questions. Item number 4, review agreement with Babcock Laboratories, Inc. for unregulated contaminant monitoring.
Same. Joanne Chan, Operations Manager. It is required that every 5 years the district monitors a list of no more than 30 unregulated contaminants to assist EPA for future regulatory actions to protect public health. The district released an RFP and received 4 proposals back in 2017. Babcock's lab proposal came in the lowest and was awarded the contract. And with that, I'm happy to address any questions.
Any questions? No, okay. Number 5, review a professional services agreement with Tyler Technologies to implement an enterprise resource planning system in Code 10.
Good morning, President Hawkins, members of the board, audience, and those watching at home. This contract is with Tyler Technologies. President Hawkins, you mentioned earlier this morning that you wanted us to introduce ourselves, and so that the audience could make sure they had the right person. So I'm John Stevenson. I'm the Director of General Services. To explain a little bit about what General Services encompasses, it includes our Business Systems and IT Department, our Geographic Information Systems Department, we're commonly referred to as GIS, as well as our Purchasing Department. So as far as me speaking on this this particular contract, I did start out as the project manager for this. At the instruction of former Assistant General Manager Logan Olds, was transitioned from me to our CFO Ricky Manvahal back in August, September. However, because of our role in General Services providing support, I am very much involved in that and providing support to our CFO and also our AGM Jeremiah Brasowski, because much of this covers customer service as well. So I will be providing the staff report here, but they also turn to these two gentlemen to answer any questions as well. As far as the project, this has been talked about for several years. We have an enterprise system that we use for billing, accounting, utility billing, etc. Our system that we had in place became outdated. So internally, we developed, in coordination with a lot of other departments and stakeholders, an RFP to look at the needs that we had as a district. We sent out that RFP. We had 3 software companies respond. We reviewed those, selected the 2 that we felt were the highest, or the better offerings, and we invited those 2 companies to come in. One was a company called Acela. They offered a software called Spring Brick. The other is Tyler Technologies. They offer a variety of softwares, but the one that we looked at in particular is in Code 10. Like I said, we included staff in that. We invited the members of the Safety and Technology Committee at the time. I believe Vice President Crowther at the time had some scheduling issues and wasn't able to attend, but Director Dr. Taylor was able to and participated in that process. So we took a look at all the options. This board back in, I believe it was September 2018, did approve the contract with Tyler Technologies. So as far as professional services, and that being the focus of kind of what we're talking about, when we look at the Tyler Technologies implementation, there are really kind of 3 core components. One being the financial management suite, which includes things such as general accounting and reporting, payroll, personnel management, and that portion of the project is complete. The go live for that was back on October 1st. We're done. The other second component of that is the customer relationship suite, which includes things such as utility billing, service orders, cash sharing. One component of that is Tyler Notify, which is something that will give us the ability to send out text messages and phone calls to contact customers. That's something that, as we move forward in developing our system here at the district, the plan is to integrate that with our GIS, so that as we have, repair issues that may affect customers, we'd be able to bring it up in GIS, outline the area. That would integrate with Tyler Encode, and through Tyler Notify, we'd be able to identify those customers and get text messages or phone calls out to them specifically.
Hopefully emails too.
Yes, we are working on that to confirm that, but that is part of the plan. Yeah. So that portion of the project is still ongoing. Right now, we are targeted for a go-live date of March 16th. So that's the second piece. And the third piece is that involves Tyler is the integration with the Maximo, that the board has already talked a lot about. So when we looked at the professional services component of that project, there are really three main parts. One is project management, and what that entails is a project manager at their end who coordinates their resources so that they get the things done that they need to, and they have conference calls with us here on staff every 2 weeks to provide us with updates, let us know what they need from us. So that is one component of the professional services. The other is programmers, which mainly involves data conversion. That's all done off-site, so there's not a consultant here, but we do work very closely with those folks as they work on converting that data. They load it up into a test environment. The staff here, they're subject matters experts in those particular areas, whether it be billing or customer service, review the data, and we have dialogue with the programmers to make sure that any changes that need to be done are handled. And the third component of the professional services is the implementation consultants, and that's really where the bulk of the consulting work is done. And what that entails are really three things. One, when we embarked on this process, we recognized that it was an opportunity for us to look at processes that we have in place and not necessarily just put those directly into the new system, but evaluate them and say, hey, is this what we really need? Some of the processes we had in place were things that were there because the district has always done it that way, or there are limitations of the former system. So one of the things that we engaged those consultants to do was to meet with all of our internal subject matter experts and evaluate all of our processes, so that as we made this transition, we could make determinations as far as which processes we definitely want them to build into the system and which ones we could improve on based on what they have to offer in the system. So that's kind of the second component, is that implementation of those processes based on those discussions. And then the third part that they are charged with is the training, and that includes just general training to staff for how the system works, how the processes work, and then also very specific training. For example, in utility billing, we had a consultant that worked with staff from both the customer service and the billing departments, and based on the discussions and subsequent discussions with our CFO, our AGM, and myself, developed very specific training documentations on how we would develop those processes and implement them. So that kind of concludes. The other thing I want to mention, as far as those professional services, those are billed as the work is completed. So the project did include an expected amount for that. So far we anticipate coming in, meeting that budget, not exceeding it. But if we come in under, we still have that potential as well. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Just a comment. John, I just want to thank you and your whole team for all the hard work on this particular project. I know that when I first came on the board about 5 years ago, we were just starting to have that conversation about we need to change our ERP because the SunGuard technology was so outdated. I mean, it was causing a lot of problems for us, and I can remember the early stages of this process before the Director Taylor and Vice President Crowther came on board. We had a lot of discussions about what it is we were looking for, and you and your team did a phenomenal job in managing that RFP. We had lots of presentations, not only to staff, but even to the full board. I mean, we really deliberated a very long time on that decision, but I do want to thank you and your team, because this has been we knew at the time this was going to be a big change for the district, because the technology we had was just so outdated, and this was going to really be a springboard to getting us into the more appropriate century we're in. And I know we've had some discussions as a board as far as how this interfaces with Maximo, but I know that at the time we made, I think, the best decision we could as far as the options available to us as far as the Tyler's system. And I just want to appreciate all the hard work you and your team have done on implementing this very large integration project. I know at the hospital, we're looking to change our electronic medical health record, and that's like a 5-year project. So, I mean, these things take a long time. I mean, even once you just made the selection, there's so many pieces that you have to roll out. So I fully understand that, even not being like an IT person, but being a project manager myself, I totally get all the hard work you and your team have done, and I just want to personally just thank you for all that.
I appreciate very much that compliment. I do want to say that it is very much a team effort. It involves a lot more than us. It involves a lot of staff in a lot of different departments besides IT. And I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll pass that along.
John, did I understand you to say that this will go live fully in March?
March 16th is the scheduled go live date.
Good. Thank you and your team for all your work on this project. I remember when we started looking for systems here that will help the district. So I really want to congratulate you and your team on this project.
I have another question. I think we'll get more into that later. Now, for this enterprise system, it does what I've heard everyone explain to me, the soft aspects of, financial, finances, this customer contact, so forth and so on. And vis-a-vis the other parts that we want to have as part of, a comprehensive enterprise system or multiple systems for the assets themselves, and being able to tell us expected use versus actual use and the hard aspect of it. Does Tyler have the capability to, there's two questions. One, does Tyler have the capability to do the hard asset management part of it? And then do we have the capability with GIS and other staff or resources internally to be able to do the hard asset management, I guess? That's
okay, so let me try and make sure I catch all your
Okay.
questions. Okay. As far as asset management, the board has talked a lot about Maximo. CityWorks has been brought up. The city has been brought up. I'm sure there are other applications out there as well. At the time we did the RFP for Tyler, they had just purchased a company called Energo, which focused on enterprise asset management. They were working on developing that and integrating that. What they actually eventually wound up doing is scrapping that and developing their own. They do actually now offer what they refer to as Tyler EAM, or Enterprise Asset Management. I quite honestly don't know exactly how that compares to any other one, but it does go beyond the scope of their standard work order module that's typically available. Work orders, can be issued and you can track the work that's being done. The asset management component, is a bit more involved, and they do offer a module for that. As far as integration with GIS, and I think you touched on GIS a little bit. Tyler Encode is GIS centric. It's based on much of the GIS technology that we're already currently using from Esri or ESRI and it's called ArcGIS. That's kind of the top tier GIS platform for in the world. That's what our current GIS system is built on. So it would integrate pretty readily with that. As far as you had a question about staff. Currently we have one GIS manager who is very technically capable. At some point, I do expect to come back to the general manager and board and talk about expanding that resource. But if you look at other agencies similar to us, most of them take a GIS-centric approach to integrating their enterprise system and their asset management system in GIS. And I know it's been a long time, but back in, I think it was January 2018, when the very first safety committee met with Directors Crowther and Vice President Crowther, Director Taylor. One of the things that we showed at that time was a diagram of our current systems, how disjointed the various systems were. They weren't integrated. And one of the diagrams I also showed was really a three-part diagram showing that we want an enterprise system, GIS, and asset management, and we want those all to be integrated. So long term, that's the ideal state for us. So I don't know if I exactly answered your question. I think I kind of went a bit longer.
Well, I think everyone knows at this point we're contemplating where do we go with Maximo vis-a-vis Tyler. I've received individual staff reports on it and feedback. I've talked to the general manager about it. I've talked to the other board members about it. We've had presentations, and I think we're weighing our options at this point, to be candid. And so, I think I think everybody's pretty comfortable with Tyler, but figuring out the asset management side, and figuring out where to go, whether it's a good fit with, our current plan with Maximo versus some other system, or like you said, using Tyler to get another service. I think all that is kind of swirling around, at least in my mind. I don't, as far as what we should do next. And so, I know there are going to be some additional questions, because we do have to make up our minds as far as what we're going to do next. We've got some bills to pay. So thank you, and I expect to be hearing more from you and more questions about this particular project. Any other question? No? All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, John. Being there are no further questions on our agenda, we will now go into closed session. Thank you for all your presentations, and we will go to closed session in conference with legal counsel for anticipated litigation. Meeting's adjourned.
Page 587 of the packet.